Hello team, welcome to my session on Coffee with Prab, and today we're going to discuss some questions on internal audit interview sessions. In this video, we're going to cover some interview question which is frequently asked for internal audit jobs. So if you're applying for internal auditors and all that, these are the frequent question which is asked in the interview. So that's why I thought I will make one short video on that same. This will be the series of videos. So this is the first series where I'm covering the basic questions, then the next level which is cover more technical questions. And by end of the day, the ultimate goal is to make sure based on this video, you can able to crack the internal audit jobs. If you're new to my channel, do subscribe to my YouTube channel and click on the bell icon to make sure you should not miss my future videos. My name is Prab Nair. For more information, you can refer my LinkedIn profile. So without wasting a time, let's start with the first part. So first question normally asked is, can you explain me about what is internal audit? See, the here company agenda is to understand whether you are aware about internal audit or not. And sometimes what happens, they even ask what is audit. Okay, so first of all, let me explain you what is audit. So if someone asks you what is audit, so audit is a process by which we're trying to assess the controls. An ultimate goal of the audit is to provide the control assurance that control is working effectively or control is working as per the business objective. And it is also introduced to improve your control environment. So here the question talking about what is internal audit. Can you explain me about internal audit? So there's my description. So internal auditing is an independent objective assurance consulting activity designed to add value and improve an organization operation. It helps an organization accomplish its objectives by bringing a systematic discipline approach to evaluate, improve the effectiveness of risk management, control and governance process. For your information, internal audit is basically act like a third line of defense in the organization. Okay. Third line of defense in the organization. They are the one who audit the first line and they audit the second line of an organization, which is called your IT and the assurance, and providing an independent report to the board of directors and to the senior management. So that is why we said internal audit is always, their department is always report as high as possible in the organization. They cannot report to any department. They cannot report to information security. They cannot report to any IT. They directly report to the board of an organization because they act like a eyes and ears of a management. Okay, so that is the first question normally asked in the internal audit. One more important thing which I would like to add in the internal audit, internal auditors or internal audit team is basically some of financial auditor, IT auditors, information security auditor, and most important process auditors and fraud investigators. So it is not something, okay, only one person who does everything, not at all. We have a people with a different expertise and they are involved in different audits. Like I was be part of internal audit but I was handling the information security audits, and their audit approach is not based on any standard. Okay, not based on any framework, but they basically audit based on the company best practices and their processes. So whatever the company process, what they have agreed, whatever the SOP they have, whatever the process documentation we have, we do the audit based on that, because by end of the day, ultimate goal is that whatever is agreed, it should be work as per the requirement. Okay, so that is the goal of an internal audit team, and they directly report to the board. Let's move to the next question. Okay, it's a very frequent question which is asked in the interview. What is audit evidence? See, the goal of the interviewer to ask this question is to just understand whether you have a practical experience of the audit or not. Now, example like if someone saying that Prab is not CISA certified. Okay, they have evidence which can prove that I am not CISA certified. How? They went to the ISACA website. In the ISACA website, they enter my number. They could not able to find. So they took the screenshot and they said, see, the number what is Prab claimed in his certificate is not in their website. So that is an evidence which validates, yes, I am not CISA certified. Now I am auditing one process. In the process, they're talking about, they are closing the RFC's request for a change or ticket in 2 days. but we have a sample where we can see the ticket has not been closed in 2 days. So that is an evidence we have by which I can challenge them that they are not going as per the business process. So audit evidence play a very important role to prove your gaps, to prove your actions. Without audit evidence, you cannot challenge the auditee. So audit evidence may be defined as a information intended to prove or support a belief that okay, this thing is against the business objective. And here the audit evidence may be classified as a sufficient, competent and relevant. See, it is good that you can elaborate about the audit evidence in detail, which can increase the confidence level among the interviewer that yes, you have a knowledge in that area. So when I say audit evidence which is sufficient, it means it should be factual, it should be adequate, it should be convincing. Okay, it means whatever you're presenting, it is basically proved. Second is it is coming from the known source. When I said I am CISA certified and you went to ISACA website and checked my certificate number and you could not able to find. So that is a snippet, that is a screenshot that you have taken as an evidence. So you can say, see, I have evidence, the Prab is not CISA certified. So they will say, what is an evidence? Like one guy told, we cannot trust that, but ISACA told that you can trust. So that is called evidence should be coming from a competent person. And it should be relevant to your gap and assessment. Example, like you have claimed that you want to go for CISA training, but when you went for the ISACA website, you cannot able to find Prab certified on CISA. So your evidence is more relevant to the gap that you identified. Same like when we auditing an incident management process or change management process, we have identified that okay, the ticket need to be closed in 2 days. We have a sample where the ticket was not closed in 2 days. So that is relevant evidence we have which can prove the things was against the process. I am showing someone else process ticket to prove your incident management is not effective, then that is not a good evidence. So that is the most important thing we need to validate. So that is how you can able to prove the audit evidence. Okay. So if you're giving such kind of an examples, I'm sure you can able to crack that interview. Okay. Because that refer your experience and all that. Let's move to the next interview question. So can you explain me what is audit program? It's again a frequent interview question which is asked by the interviewer. What is audit program? So audit program is a set of detailed steps the auditor basically will follow in order to gain the appropriate evidence, and for the IS auditor may well include the use of a computerized technique, although this is not always the case. See, audit program is like a software. Audit program is a manual. Audit program is a procedures by which we conduct an audit. Okay, it has a manual, it has instructions by which any auditor can do the audit. Now, in the organization, you have a multiple auditors. You want to bring the uniformity among the auditors. So by following the audit program, they can able to audit in a more uniform manner. So that is why we need an audit program. Okay, let's move to the next interview question. Can you explain me about internal control? Okay, it's a very frequent question because by end of the day in auditing, we auditing the controls only. Okay, so let me check what is the answer you give for the internal control, because ultimate goal of the internal control or as a control is to mitigate the risk, reduce the impact. That is the reason we introduce the control. Okay, but here the question specifically talking about what is internal control. So internal control is a process designed, implement and maintain by those charged with governance, management or other person to provide the reasonable assurance about the achievement of entity objective with regards to reliability of financial reporting, effectiveness and efficiency of operations, and compliance with the applicable laws and regulation. The term control refers to any aspect of one or more of the component of internal control. One example I can give you of internal control is separation of duty. Now in the financial department, we have this control which is called separation duty. Okay, how can you validate? Yes, we can see that, okay, one person is basically writing a transaction, one person is approving a transaction, one person is processing the transaction. So we have a person 1, person 2 and person 3. They need to work together to complete the transaction. So this is SOD is a act like an internal control here. If we don't have this SOD, then what happened? Person 1 is creating a transaction, approving a transaction and processing a transaction. So there is a possibility he can commit a fraud. So that is called as one example of internal control. And as an auditor, when you're auditing the internal control, you can see, you can perform one dummy transaction and see whether this transaction is basically processing through all the 3 checkpoints and all. Okay, so this is one example of an internal control we have, and we have a different type of internal controls. Okay, so that's why if you're able to answer this internal control, then the interviewer might ask the next question, can you tell me more about the type of internal control in the information system? So as an auditor, you must be familiar with the type of internal controls. So we have a preventative control, the control which prevent incident. Example like firewall is a preventative control, antivirus is a preventative control. Then we have a detective control. Detective control is detecting the incident. Example like monitoring, IDS, these are the detective controls. Corrective control is to correct the incident. If incident happen, then we need some kind of a control to reduce the impact. Okay, then we have a directive control. Directive control is more like instructions with directions given to the user, and compensating control is when one control is failed, we have another control to protect. One example is, this is the firewall we have. So this is the firewall which is act like a preventative control. Okay, then we install the IDS here, and then we have a switch. We have a system A here. Now what happened, there is a possibility that attacker was able to attack the internal system. So we have a preventive control in place which tried to block. But if he able to bypass the firewall, IDS will going to record. So that is a detective control. That notification went to incident management team. They basically respond to the incident. That is a corrective control. We also have a policy, no one's supposed to browse social media 9 to 5. That is the directive control. Thank God on the system A, we install the DLP. So if my primary control is ineffective, still we have a secondary control which try to block, or the system is running with the principle of least privilege. So this is how we can have a preventative control, detective control, corrective control, directive control, and compensating control. So it is the overall combination of the individual element of controls that go to make the system of internal control. Okay, let's move to the next interview question. Very frequent question which is asked in the interview. Can you explain me about internal audit process? Okay, if you're able to explain them in a systematic manner, then there is a possibility that, okay, they will get a visibility. Yes, you have experience in the internal audit. Okay, and the reason why they ask this question is to check whether the person has a theoretical knowledge or a practical knowledge. So here we're going to discuss about internal audit process. There is a one dedicated video, okay, I have made on internal audit process, but here I'm going to discuss in a very high level. So first we send the engagement letter. So as a audit manager, okay, we send the engagement letter to the auditee. Example, I'm auditing a data center. So I will send a engagement letter to the data center manager in which I'm explaining about the scope of audit. I'm going to explain about the auditor and when to start an audit. Then they will approve. Then the second step is basically we do the pre-audit meetings in which we try to understand their process. And then based on that, we prepare the audit plan memorandum in which I'm explaining the process which I'm going to audit, the scope of audit, and the auditing. Then I will prepare the possible risk. Okay, it is very important to have a high level visibility of the possible risk that we need to identify in the data center, which is called as a pre-RCM, like absence of the process, absence of the change management process, absence of the physical security control, and what are the possible controls we have. So we prepare the pre-RCM possible, which is called as a risk and control matrix. So this is kind of a table we have in which we document the possible risk and we document the possible controls should be there in order to mitigate the things. So based on this particular pre-RCM only, I am going to audit the data center. Then I will initiate the field work in which I will basically do the interview the people, understand more in detail, understand the process, and then we pick the samples. If the sample is huge, on that we do the sampling. Example, in every 10 logs, I'm going to audit 1 log, and based on that I will conclude my observation. Then I will basically prepare the final report with the recommendations, and then we'll do the final validation with the recommendations. Because when you're preparing a final report with the recommendations, okay, you need to get consent from an auditee. Okay, it's very important. So you will involve the auditee. You can share the first draft of the report with the auditee. Okay, it is always a challenging task to get their consent on the findings you have identified. So in the report, you will submit your risk, okay, findings, and the recommendation. Now based on the recommendation, auditee will provide their action plan. it is also very important to document their action plan and the date on which they're going to amend this action plan. Once we basically get an approval, then you send the final report to the board of directors and senior management. So this is how we basically do the internal audit. Okay, there is a detailed video I made on this, okay, that you can check. Let's move to the next interview question. Okay, next question is, can you explain me about the different type of audit reports? So we have a different type of audit report. First is called as the interim engagement report. Interim engagement report is a report that you share, you inform about the auditee, about the audit, and the initial report that you basically share with your other team member, because we need a 3I checks. You also share this report with your manager, reporting manager. This kind of audit we have done, this is the report we have. Then you prepare the draft audit report, and this draft audit report you will basically share with the auditee, okay, to take their consent and all that. Once they basically fill their action plan, then we have a final audit report, and this report we basically share with the board of directors, senior managements and other business stakeholders. And then we have a follow-up report, because as an auditor you are also responsible to do the follow-up on those findings, because the auditee was agreed that on the 3rd March 2022 they're going to close this findings. So we will send the follow-up report to check whether this has been closed or not. And then we have a board meeting in which we present the report. We will not going to describe in detail, we just tell them about, okay, these are the audit we have done and this is the report, this is the findings we had in this particular process, these are the number of findings we have. But we will not describe more in detail, because this presentation basically prepared by the internal audit head, and he will basically present this report in his board of meeting. In his absence, then it will be an internal audit manager or a dedicated internal audit person going to present this report. So these are the different type of reports we have. Okay, so sometime what happened, they might ask some scenario questions where the audit leaders and manager of entity being audited are unable to reach an agreement on remedial action. What will be the action plan? Sometimes it happens, you know, when you're presenting a finding, they're not agreed on the findings. So how to deal with that? So in that case, immediately you have to report to the head of audit department, like audit head and all that, a group auditor, and head of audit department resolve the disagreement directly with the manager of the audited entity. And sometimes what happened, audit department also refer the issues to progressively high level authority in the hierarchy until the satisfactory solution is agreed. So if you're able to answer such kind of questions, they will able to see that yes, you have a problem solving skill analysis also. You know that, okay, this kind of a situation happened and you know how to handle the situations. Because sometimes what happened, internal auditor, when he presenting a draft report, the auditee on a first time, he don't agree with those findings. Sometimes they give a justification of the budgetary approvals and all that. Then you have to involve the senior management to resolve those particular issues. So in that case, you will report this to your internal audit head. The internal audit head will discuss with the group audit, and the group audit will basically discuss with the business stakeholders and get it done, this task. So that is there. Next interview question. What is audit charter? How to prepare for audit charter? So as an internal audit manager, you should be very familiar with what is audit charter. Okay, so audit charter is a formal document. Okay, if you can see here, audit charter is a formal document that defines the internal audit purpose, authority, responsibility, and position within the organization. See, suppose whenever you go for any audit, they will simply ask, who are you in the company? Who you are? Okay, what is your role? So if you basically publish the audit charter on your website, internal website, then you can share the link. See, this is what we are. So this internal audit charter basically talk about your governance. It talk about how you work in the company, who you are. Okay, so that is why it is very important whenever you want to start audit. It is very important to create an audit charter, because it defines your scope, it defines your responsibility toward the organization. So every time you don't need to dictate or explain to the people who you are. So in this audit charter, it includes your mission purpose, scope, roles and responsibility of management, roles and responsibility of internal auditors, relationship with the external auditors, authorities of internal auditors, internal audit report and monitoring, and organization resource of internal audit functions. So all those things are basically captured in the audit charter. If you find this video useful, do share in network and do let me know how do you find this video. Do share your feedback in the comment section and let me know what are the further videos you want me to make on internal audit. Thank you for watching the video. If you still have not subscribed, do subscribe to my channel and click on the bell icon to make sure you should not miss my future videos. Thank you. Goodbye.